Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 15th Annual Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame Induction Banquet. We are so pleased that you've elected to join us tonight. We are grateful for your continuing support of the Hall of Fame. At this time, I would ask you to please stand as our color guard from the Ranger Training Brigade, Fort Benning, presents the nation's colors, followed by the playing of the national anthem. And please remain standing for the retirement of the colors. Thank you. Please be seated. It's a great pleasure to introduce to you the class of 2010. Each inductee will be escorted by a Columbus State University cheerleader. We're pleased to introduce from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, class of 2010 inductee, Greg Camp. From Virginia Military Institute, VMI, class of 2010 inductee, Mr. Ben Hardaway III. from Chattahoochee Valley Community College and Auburn University, class of 2010 inductee, Tim Hudson. Auburn University, class of 2010 inductee, Dan Kirkland Jr. Representing University of Alabama and class of 2010 inductee Nathan Rustin, his son Ty Rustin, and coaching associate David Taylor. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll kindly refer to the program on the table before you, you'll note that we'll begin the evening with the invocation, followed by dinner. Following dinner, we'll recognize various notables in the audience, past year inductees or their representatives, and then, of course, the highlight of the evening will be the induction of the class of 2010. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the pastor of First Baptist Church, Dr. Jimmy Elder, for our invocation. I might add, as Dr. Elder makes his way to the podium, that he has an extra special smile on his face in that he and his wife, Roxanne, seated at table number 7, became grandparents for the first time of a 9-pound baby girl, and he believes that there's a Hall of Famer in their future.
Thank you. Yeah, but I still didn't get a cheerleader tonight. That's the... Would you join me in thanking Jim for what he does for this? Isn't that a wonderful blessing? Tonight we celebrate blessings, we celebrate accomplishments, we celebrate talent that is used and influence that is wielded through the accomplishments that we celebrate. So would you bow with me as we pray? Lord, as we bow before you, we are very grateful that you give us opportunities to rise to our best selves, to use the talents you've given us, the abilities. And some people stand out in such a way that they inspire all of us to do more with what you've given us. As we join in this room, help us to remember that not only are we blessed to be able to do things, but we're blessed by you with so many talents and abilities that may be used for the good of the community, for the drawing together of people and the inspiring of lives. As we think of these things, we honor those who stand before us tonight. And we ask your blessings upon them. And may the message of their lives be something that informs and encourages community this day forth and forever. Thank you for food on the table, for hands that prepared it, for fellowship that is shared, and for a community that can acknowledge accomplishment and can celebrate together and can love as this one does. We thank you for that love, for it is in your name we pray. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy dinner. We'll pause for about 25 to 30 minutes. Again, we welcome you to this special occasion where we recognize those who have accomplished considerable amounts in the world of sports as representatives of our Chattahoochee Valley. Before we honor the class of 2010, we want to recognize a number of special guests this evening. I'd like to express our appreciation to the Ledger Enquirer, Kevin Price, sports editor, and writers Larry Guerra, Andy Bitter, Chris White, Kathy Guerra, and Stephanie Pedersen for this week's profiles of our inductees. I also want to recognize Dave Platter at TV9, as well as Stuart Weber at TV3, and a special thanks to fellow board member Phil Scoggins for the videos that you'll see tonight. Would you please join me in giving them a round of applause? We're grateful for the presence of various dignitaries from the area. At table number 22, hosted by Lieutenant General Ben Register, is Mayor and Mrs. Jim Wetherington, Mayor LaFay Dellinger and her husband Rick, Colonel Chuck Durr, Chief of Staff at Fort Benning, Mrs. Mim Halleck, and Secretary of the Army Bo Calloway. Please join me in welcoming those folks. Some 15 years ago, a group of local sports enthusiasts gathered to consider how they might recognize those who had contributed to sports from the Chattahoochee Valley. After a series of meetings, the organization we know today as the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame came into existence. The organization consists of 20 members, of which 7 serve as a board of directors. Those 20 individuals meet during the months of July, August, and September concerning the selection process for the inductees. They meet during the months of October and November for purposes of having the annual Charles B. Morrow Memorial Golf Tournament, and then during the months of December, January, and into February as we prepare for this annual induction banquet. I know there are a number of our board members and committee members present, so at this time I would ask you to please stand and accept our thanks for jobs well done this year. Would you please stand? We're also pleased to have a number of our past year inductees with us, or their representatives. If you will, as I call your name, would you please stand? And audience, if you'll kindly hold your applause until all names have been called. I'll begin with the class of 1996. From the class of 1996, Hall of Famer Larry Mize. Larry, would you please stand and remain standing? From the class of 1997, Hall of Famer Cecil Darby. From the class of 1997, representing his father, Hall of Famer B.F. Register, his son, Lieutenant General retired Ben Register. From the class of 1998, Hall of Famer James Bubba Ball. From the class of 1999, Hall of Famer Billy Key. From the class of 2000, Hall of Famer Frank Sonny Clements. From the class of 2000, Hall of Famer Jack Key Jr. From the class of 2002, Hall of Famer George McCluskey Jr. From the class of 2003, Hall of Famer Bill Plager. From the class of 2003, Hall of Famer Wayne Trawick. From the class of 2004, Hall of Famer Wallace Davis. From the class of 2004, Darrell D.J. Jones. From the class of 2005, Hall of Famer Debbie Ball. From the class of 2005, Hall of Famer Bobby Howard. From the class of 2007, Hall of Famer Aaron Cohn. From the class of 2007, Hall of Famer Doug Key. From the class of 2008, Hall of Famer E.L. Moose Godwin. I hope I have not missed anybody. If I have, would you please let me know? I don't see any hands raised. So, Marilyn Comiskey, I'm sorry I missed you. I apologize very much. There she is. Sorry, Marilyn. Anybody else that I've missed? Well, thank you very much for your presence tonight, and ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a round of applause. Now it's time to honor our class of 2010 inductees. Our first inductee is a very blessed son, husband, father, and grandfather. He served 29 years in the U.S. Army, to include being an infantry platoon leader and company commander in the 1st Cavalry Division in Vietnam. He was a 1964 State of Virginia champion, setting state records in the mile and half mile. He was captain of the 1968 West Point track team. He set 10 Academy individual and relay records, indoors and outdoors, and he helped build the National Infantry Museum and Soldier Center in his hometown of Columbus. Please direct your attention to the screen.
Greg Camp's distinguished career in the military was preceded by a remarkable athletic career in long-distance running. Camp was a state championship miler in high school in Virginia. Then he was off to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, where he was a 3-year letterman in indoor and outdoor track and cross country. During his junior year at the Academy, Greg won the heptagonals in the 1,000-yard run in 2 minutes 10 seconds, a record which was never broken. Half an hour later, he anchored the winning 2-mile relay in record time. For his efforts, Camp received the Outstanding Performer Award, beating out Frank Shorter of Yale. Greg was the captain of the indoor track team at West Point his senior year. He won the half mile at the Mason-Dixon Games that year, tying the record for the fastest time in the world in that event in 1968. By the time his running career ended at the Academy, Camp held 5 individual and 5 relay records, half of which still stand today. Following graduation from the Academy, Greg launched his 29-year career in the Army. He completed airborne and ranger training at Fort Benning. Then it was off to Vietnam, where he served as a platoon leader and company commander of the 1st Cavalry Division. After returning from Vietnam, he attended graduate school at Georgia Tech, where he ran for their track and cross-country teams. In 1974, Greg broke the Tech school record in the mile with a time of 4 minutes 3 seconds. That same year, he was named the Outstanding Male Athlete of the Year in Georgia by the Atlanta Track Club. Camp retired from the Army in 1996 as Chief of Staff at Fort Benning. He decided to make Columbus home. He currently serves as Executive Vice President of the National Infantry Foundation and played an instrumental role in the planning and construction of the new National Infantry Museum and Soldier Center at the gates of Fort Benning. Greg has also been a valued member of the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame Board of Directors. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to induct Greg Camp.
Ladies and gentlemen, class of 2010 Hall of Famer Greg Camp.
Thank you very much, Jim. I'd like to thank all the members of the Sports Hall of Fame Committee for this honor tonight, and particularly Judge Aaron Cohn, who's a formidable advocate on that committee. I'd also like to thank some of my friends who have traveled from a long way to share this evening with me tonight. My West Point roommate Gary and his wife Patty Halstead are here from Castle Rock, Colorado. A couple of my running buddies have come a long way. Bill Blewett and his wife Joanne have come from Bel Air, Maryland, and my running buddy and training partner Bob Thomas and his wife Lenise have come from Augusta, Georgia to be with us tonight. I'd particularly like to thank my current running buddy, Jack Goldfrank, who organized all 3 of them to be here tonight and really who is the impetus behind this nomination and this honor. My task over the next couple of minutes is to really try to adequately express to you how appreciative and how humbled I am by this recognition. But if you look at the other inductees on the dais tonight, it's really not too hard to see why anyone would be humbled to be in their company. First, you've got Tim Hudson, a Major League Baseball player. About 1 of every 15 or 20,000 Little Leaguers will make it to the major leagues. And he not only is a Major League Baseball, but he's a multi-time All-Star Major League Baseball. And then you've got Dan Kirkland Jr., who's the finest basketball player that this community has ever produced. He has records that are 40 years old that have never been broken. He was an All-American both at high school level and at college level. And then Coach Rustin, who was All-State player twice starter, 2-year starter for Coach Paul Bear Bryant when they had undefeated and national championship teams. And at least, in my opinion, his greatest contribution to sports was his 3 decades as a coach, where he instilled character and values in his athletes, to include both of my sons. And that takes care of, baseball, football, and basketball, which are the 3 major sports universally in our country. But at least in these parts of the world, there's another sport that's equally as big, and that's hunting. And the 4th inductee is Mr. Ben Hardaway, and he represents that sport. And he is internationally renowned for his contributions to hunting and dog breeding and fox hunting. Not only is Mr. Hardaway a legend in his sport, but over the last several years he's become a personal mentor to me. He's a respected business and civic leader, and he's a World War II hero, having earned the medal, having earned the Silver Star in the European Theater of Operations. So it's not hard to see why anyone would be humbled to be in this company, but I feel particularly so because these 4 have one thing in common. They all grew up in this community. They began their careers right here in the Chattahoochee Valley. They also represent sports that have an enduring popularity and a large fan base. In selecting me to join these 4 great sportsmen, the committee has recognized someone who not only did not grow up in Columbus, but whose modest athletic achievements were accomplished outside of our community. Furthermore, the committee recognized a sportsman whose sport has really only got a fan base for a few weeks every 4 years during the Olympics. But this sort of behavior is not unusual for Columbus. It's the norm. Columbus is a very inclusive community, and it's particularly inclusive to retired soldiers like myself. Soldiers don't have the luxury of planting deep roots in any one community, but they do have the opportunity to select a community from the many that they have experienced to live the rest of their lives. And that's why so many of my fellow soldiers like me have chosen Columbus. And this honor here tonight is but one reason why we feel like this is home, this is the place, this is where we belong. In closing, I'd like to thank my family, and particularly my wife, who allowed me to continue my interest in running, even when she had to take care of our 3 kids while I was out running. She's the love of my life, and no honor like this would be right without her being here. And God didn't make me big and strong, but he did give me a talent, and tonight you have made me feel like I honored his gift. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and congratulations, Greg and family. Our next inductee fought in World War II as an Armored Cavalry Company commander and later as an aide to the 12th Corps commander, earning the Silver and Bronze Star medals for valor in action. Following the war, his company, the Hardaway Company, built the first Skyway Bridge in Tampa and the Oroville Dam, the largest fixed-price job ever at that time. He has spent a lifetime breeding foxhounds, bird dogs, retrievers, terriers, lurchers, and horses with incredible success. His Midland hounds appear in the pedigrees of 90% of the United States crossbred packs. He's past president of the Masters of Foxhounds Association of America and an honorary member of the Masters of Foxhounds Association in England for his breeding of foxhounds. The Benjamin H. Hardaway III, Broodmare Equine Reproduction Laboratory at Auburn University honors his efforts to serve horse breeders with a modern facility for clinical service, teaching, and research. Please direct your attention to the screen.
Benjamin Hardaway III was born in Columbus and grew up on the family farm in Midland. He attended local elementary and high schools. He graduated from Virginia Military Institute in 1940 with a degree in civil engineering. While at VMI, he played polo and was an accomplished swimmer. After college, Hardaway went to work for the family business, the Hardaway Company, handling a variety of engineering projects. In 1942, he entered the Army and fought in World War II, commanding the Armored Cavalry Company. For his meritorious service, he was awarded both the Silver Star and Bronze Star. Hardaway was discharged from the Army as a major in December 1945, at which time he returned home to resume his work with the Hardaway Company. It distinguished itself as one of the premier construction companies in the U.S., building such structures as the first Skyway Bridge in Tampa, Florida, and the Oroville Dam on the Feather River in California, the tallest dam in America. Hardaway's reputation as a master builder is surpassed only by his achievements in the realm of fox hunting and hound breeding. His autobiography, entitled Never Outfoxed, chronicles his hunting life that began when he traded in his assortment of possum and coon dogs for 7 or 8 couples of pure July hounds. From there, Hardaway embarked on a lifetime of breeding everything from foxhounds, bird dogs, and retrievers to horses, and with incredible success.
His blood has been bred into most of the really high performance and well-known packs around the world, and he's gained a reputation like nobody else in the breeding world over his lifetime.
Midland hounds appear in the pedigrees of 90% of the U.S. crossbred packs. As joint master of the Midland hounds with his son-in-law Mason Lampton, Hardaway is host to masters from all across the U.S. and abroad to hunt. Thanks to his expertise in the breeding of foxhounds, Ben Hardaway has held numerous positions of distinction, including past president of the Masters of Foxhounds Association of America, director of the American Foxhound Club, and an honorary member of the Masters of Foxhounds Association in England. The Ben Hardaway III Broadmare Equine Reproduction Laboratory at Auburn University was named in his honor when it opened in 1995. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to induct Ben Hardaway III.
Ladies and gentlemen, class of 2010 Hall of Famer, Mr. Ben Hardaway.
Well, they told me I could only have 10 minutes, and I'd never miss a chance, no matter how short. And I've got this many new ears to fill up, and it's a great honor for me to be taken into this organization. And I want to thank the president and the board of directors and all the people that voted, and even those that didn't vote for me. I'm here. And I also want to thank whoever picked out that pretty little girl to lead me up here, because I think that's really going to the last to make a dinner party first class. I'm very happy to have some of my blood kin here. I've got my daughter Susanna with her husband Scott, my sister Mrs. Houston, my brother-in-law Redmond, my lovely daughter Mary Lou, is tough as a wet leather, and the savior of my pack's life, Mr. Mason Lampton, who is a wonderful speaker, but you don't want to get him started. And Kurt Elver, man that's looked after me for many years. I just want to say a few things about, I was working hard at one time in my life. You won't believe it, but I did work my butt off. And I came in from a job and I started packing, and my wife said, Sarah McDuffie said, what are you doing packing? You just in for a week. I said, I know it, but I'm being taken into the Athletic Hall of Fame of VMI. She said, for what? I said, well, it's all right. I should remember that you were too young to be up in Virginia or in these colleges when I was up there, but I've told you that I was on the swimming team from the first day I got there, and we went to the Southern Conference champion, and 4 of us won the 400-meter relay, and the time was a record, and it stayed a record quite a long time. and I ended up captain of a swimming team. And I also was #1 on the polo team. So I guess, and I also gave him some money in the name of my father. I know that didn't have anything to do with me being elected into the Athletic Hall of Fame, but I just had to mention that. But this is a wonderful organization. I knew more people here than I thought I would, and I'm proud to be a member of it, and I appreciate it. I say again, I appreciate all that connected with me getting here. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, sir. Congratulations again, Mr. Hardaway, and family as well. Our next inductee became just the 6th pitcher since 1970 to notch his 100th win in 2020 or fewer games, doing so in 2006. Since the year 2000, he holds the 3rd best winning percentage in all of Major League Baseball. He has posted double-digit wins in each of his first 10 Major League seasons. In 2009, he and his wife, Kim, launched the Hudson Family Foundation, a nonprofit children's charity that supports children throughout the states of Georgia and Alabama. He's an 8-time Roberto Clemente Award winner, an award that recognizes those players who best exemplify the game of baseball through sportsmanship, community involvement, and positive contribution to their teams. If you'll kindly direct your attention to the screen.
Tim Hudson's ability to throw a baseball has taken him from the sandlot to the big leagues. Tim was born in Columbus in 1975 and grew up in Phoenix City. He played his high school ball at Glenwood, where he led the Gators to the 1993 AISA State Championship his senior year, going 12-1. Without a major college scholarship offer, Tim decided to go to Chattahoochee Valley Community College. Again, success followed him. During his 2-year stint with the Pirates, they won the Alabama Junior College Division II Championship. Hudson earned first-team All-American honors and earned a scholarship to Auburn University, where he pitched and played center field. His senior year, he was named 1997 SEC Player of the Year and was a first-team All-American as a utility player. He posted a record of 15-2 as a pitcher and hit .396 with 18 home runs. The major leagues came calling after Tim when he graduated from Auburn. He was drafted in the 6th round by the Oakland A's. After 2 seasons in the minors, he was called up to the big club in 1999. His rookie season, he finished with an impressive 11-2 record. Tim's best season with Oakland was 2000. He notched a career-high 20 victories and made the All-Star team. Over the next 4 seasons, Tim posted 61 wins and again made the All-Star team in 2004. Tim was traded to the Atlanta Braves in December of that year. His first season with Atlanta, he went 14-9. That's the year the Braves won their 14th consecutive division title. Hudson posted a 13-12 record in 2006 and went 16-10 in 2007, at one point winning 9 straight starts. Tim was off to an 11-8 record in 2008, but was forced to end the season early to have Tommy John surgery. Tim has posted double-digit wins in each of his major league seasons. Tim's off-the-field efforts are just as impressive as those on the field. He has received the Roberto Clemente Award 7 times, an award that recognizes player sportsmanship and community involvement. Tim and his wife Kim are also ambassadors for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to induct Tim Hudson.
Ladies and gentlemen, class of 2010 Hall of Famer Tim Hudson.
Oh, thank you. Boy, some memories right there. I didn't realize how much I've aged over the years, but man, well, we looked young when we was at Chattahoochee Valley, didn't we, Adam? And at Auburn. But, thank you guys for being here. This is truly, truly an honor. I want to thank everybody with the Chattahoochee Valley Hall of Fame, the committee, the board. This is something really special. It's a lot of fun to come back to your hometown, to your stomping grounds, and see a lot of familiar faces at an event like this. It really says something. When the people that you really care about, the people from your area, that they, think so much of your career and the accomplishments that I've been able to come across throughout my college careers and my Major League Baseball career. So, thank you. I want to thank my family for being here. My wife, my awesome wife Kim. She's been on this trip with me through from the start, from our Auburn days, and we met. She was actually my history tutor at Auburn, so she knew how dumb I was from the start, and she managed to stick with me. But anyways, she's we've made a great team throughout this ride, and who God only knows what would have happened in my career, or what kind of success I wouldn't have had without her, because she's definitely has kept me grounded, has kept me in line, and has kept me on that straight path that I need to be the kind of man and the kind of husband and the kind of father that I need to be. And I want to thank my parents for raising me in a way that is Dad, just seeing you how hard you worked when I was a kid growing up, that really instilled a great work ethic in me, and I know that every day when I go to the field and work hard, I knew it was because all the years of seeing you work so hard, and it's just it was really special, and man. But anyways, God, that passed me. That was the hardest part. But anyways, it's great to see a lot of familiar faces here, a lot of great friends, a lot of coaches along the way I need to thank. Coach Thomas, no, not you, Adam, your dad. Adam Thomas's dad was my coach in Little League growing up, and it was a thrill to see him here tonight. It's funny, a little redneck from Alabama, man. Who would have ever thought? I was, running around the field like a chicken with my head cut off when I was in Little League, and here I am. I don't know how I done it, but I done it. But it was just the one thing. I was blessed with a lot of passion for the game of baseball, and I was never the biggest. I was never the strongest. I was never even the best on my team, but the one thing that I will say is I love the game, and I love playing it. I was always, one of the first ones there and the last ones to leave. And when I wasn't at the field, I wanted to be at the field. And, I just thank God for that passion that he instilled in me. And I know that that's a big reason why I've had the career that I've had, is because, if there's ever an overachiever, you're probably looking at him. It was one of those things where I made the most out of probably the least. But, I knew that I had some talent, and I knew that I had a love for the game. And it was one of those things where, I was blessed with opportunities. One was to play at Chattahoochee Valley Community College. Coming out of Glenwood, I didn't have any scholarship offers. So I thank B.R. Johnson and everybody at Chattahoochee Valley for giving me that opportunity. And, I was able to develop some talent. I was able to put on that freshman 15 pounds that most freshmen probably put on. And, from there, I was blessed with an opportunity to play at Auburn University. And I have a lot of people here from Auburn University tonight. I want to thank you guys for the opportunity, and thank you guys for coming from Auburn. And, that was where it started. It was just God blessed me with a lot of opportunities. And for whatever reason, whenever I had those opportunities, I was able to be successful. And, I don't think it's a coincidence that it happened. I think God had a plan, for me in my career all along. And, whether it be Chattahoochee Valley, going to Auburn, getting drafted by the A's, and having a lot of different opportunities with the Oakland Athletics organization to move up through that system and to make those opportunities count. It's just, and oftentimes I've wondered, why was I so lucky? Why did I was able to get these opportunities, and then whenever I did get them, I was able to capitalize on them and have a career in baseball and be successful. And, every day it becomes more and more clear to me. It was, for me, and I see it a lot with my wife and in the charity work that we do every year. He blessed me with a platform. And, we've worked a lot with a lot of children's organizations over the last 10 years with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, with Children's Health Care of Atlanta. We just started our own foundation, the Hudson Family Foundation. And, I see that, he blessed me with this platform, and it's to help other people, and it's to help kids, who, need a role model, kids who want to learn about baseball, who was, that Tim Hudson, as a kid growing up. And, I think I have a lot of, my son is out of control in the front row. If y'all are just, if y'all are wondering what that is waving, it's my son. But it's, our passion is helping kids and trying to reach out to people who, who are struggling. And because I understand what it was like, to have to work for stuff and to have, things that were hard to achieve, but you had to work hard to get them and to accomplish that. Luke 12:48 says, "For those who have been given much, much is required in return." And I see that. I've been blessed with a lot of opportunities, a lot of, a big platform. And, it's my turn to give back now. And a lot of Major League Baseball players, they'll start a foundation early in their career, and everything's all cool, and they have their foundation throughout their career. We kind of did it backwards. I mean, we kind of started our foundation at the end of my career. But for me, it was one of those things where I know that this is something that we're going to be doing far beyond my baseball career as a player. And, it just kind of took us, God, he molded us in a way throughout my career to understand what's right and how to do things and how to help people and how to do it in a way that is glorifying him. And, it's been a fun ride. Hopefully my baseball career is long from over, but the one thing that I'm really looking forward to is what's going to happen after my baseball career and the people that, me and my family and our foundation and my wife will be able to impact over the years. So once again, thank everyone for coming. I'm truly honored to be here. It's a blessing, and thank you.
Thank you, Tim, and congratulations to you and to the family as well. I must correct an error on my part. I failed to recognize the presence of Athletic Director Jay Jacobs from Auburn University and members of his staff. Jay, I'm not sure exactly where you are back there, but raise your hand. There he is back there. Welcome. Our next inductee scored 2,236 points in a 4-year career at Columbus High School, setting a bi-city single-season record for freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. He was Bi-City Player of the Year for both his junior and senior years, becoming the first junior to win the award. He was a 3-time All-Bi-City selection in baseball as a pitcher and infielder. He was ranked the #1 basketball player in the state his senior year by the Atlanta Journal and was named 3rd-team All-American by Parade Magazine. Please direct your attention to the screen.
Dan Kirkland Jr. was one of the most prolific high school basketball players in Columbus history. His record-setting career unfolded at Columbus High School from 1965 to 1969. He broke into the starting lineup as a freshman. He scored 7 points in his very first game and went on to score 255 points his 9th grade season. His sophomore year, he averaged over 16 points per game despite missing 7 games with a back injury. As a junior, Kirkland racked up 647 points for an average of just under 30 points per game. His senior year, he shot the lights out, scoring 940 points, averaging 33 points per game. Kirkland scored a total of 2,236 points during his Blue Devil career, averaging 21.5 points per game, and that set the career Bi-City scoring record. During the region tournament his senior year, he poured in 61 points against Carver, also a Bi-City record. Kirkland was the first junior to be named Bi-City Player of the Year, an honor he also received his senior year. In 1969, he was listed as the #1 prep basketball player in Georgia by the Atlanta Journal. Parade magazine listed him on their 3rd team, the only Georgian named on the first 5 teams by that publication. Over his 4-year high school career, Kirkland led the Blue Devils to a record of 82 wins against just 29 losses. Dan wasn't just a one-sport competitor, he also excelled in baseball, making the All-Bi-City team 3 years as a pitcher and an infielder. But it was his skills on the basketball court that caught the attention of the college coaches. Kirkland received scholarship offers from Georgia, where his father played, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Kentucky, Alabama, and LSU. But he ended up signing with Auburn. He led the Baby Tigers with a 23-point average despite missing 6 games with a knee injury and was named to the freshman All-America team. Knee problems continued to plague him and finally forced him to end his basketball career after his junior year at Auburn. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to induct Dan Kirkland Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, class of 2010 Hall of Famer, Dan Kirkland Jr. Dan, could you look at the camera down there?
Thank you.
You okay?
Appreciate it. Yeah, fine. Thank you. I'm a little slow these days. Get these things on. As everyone else has, I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame Selection Committee and all my old friends that are here and my new ones that some of them met here tonight. And the great coaches that I was lucky to have. Starting with Mr. Denny Trotter, who's here tonight, and whose family has been so important to me my entire life. And Mr. Jim Beach, who's my coach at Johnson School. Coach Joe Sparks, Larry Chapman, who's now at AUM. I'd also like to thank the sports writers who were covering high school sports during my time. The legendary Cecil Darby, Jerry Gibson, and the late Roy Riley. They covered high school sports like ESPN covers the Lakers now. It was really a great time to be a player in Columbus. I'd also like to thank Buddy Sullivan. He was a 1964 graduate of Columbus High School and wrote the book Dresser in Orange and Blue, which that's anything I know, I have to go back to that book, just, I can't remember anything. And a special thanks to Richard Hyatt, who has been a champion for me and my daddy's induction into the Hall of Fame. So thank all of you. In the last week, I've spent, you know how you do, just sitting on the tractor, sitting on the couch, thinking of my past and growing up here. And Columbus was a great place to grow up in the 1950s. There was no crime. We didn't think there were any bad people. And we were so fortunate to have good men as our coaches and role models. And Mr. Trotter had as much to do with me being here tonight as anyone I can think of, except maybe Mama and Daddy, I guess. His knowledge and his general goodness were invaluable in my development as a basketball player. And at Columbus High School, I really got lucky when I got the late Coach Joe Sparks. he had a great knowledge of the game. I still remember some of his strategic timeouts. He'd put his chalkboard out. He'd write X's and O's and draw lines all over it. And we'd clap and break the huddle and he'd say, now when you get the ball to half court, pass it to Dan. That was my kind of coach, you know. I like that. Anyway, like everyone else in Columbus, so in our neighborhood, Jordan Johnson area, we had a good group of young boys and athletes that we got to play with every day. And it was just a great time to grow up. Everybody played every sport. I didn't play football, not real football, you know, with pads. I played touch football at Johnson School. My quarterback's here tonight, one of my old friends, Don Gallops. But I did one thing in football that none of my friends did. I went down to Lake Bottom one day, and I won the punt, pass, and kick contest. I think they were all at football practice. But anyway, I won. And the prize they gave you was a good one. It was a full Washington Redskins uniform, helmet and everything. I was 12 years old, and I won the thing somehow or another. I got my box of stuff, and I went back to 39th Street, and I was so proud. Yeah, I was proud. I was so proud, I wore it to school the next day. The whole thing. In the 7th grade. Now, I happened to be captain of the safety patrol. I don't know if any of y'all know what that was. But you wore those things that you, across here and everywhere, and you had a little star. And that was hard getting that thing up over my shoulder. I never had to put shoulder pads on before. I didn't. But I got them on, got my badge on, went to the first corner at Johnson School and started blowing my whistle and telling people where to go. And you know, nobody even laughed at me. That's how innocent those people were then. They just waved. It was a wonderful time to grow up. Anyway, then one of the things that I remember really about as much as that, we were playing up in Atlanta somewhere. I don't know. Avondale, Marietta. I don't know who it was. Anyway, it was the 13, I believe, and under state championship finals. And we were leading 2-1. No, we were losing 2-1. And I was at bat, of course, bottom of the 7th, 2 outs, bases loaded. Now, some of these people here tonight say I had a 3-0 count on me. I still say it was 2-0. Anyway, the pitcher threw one about right here. And I hit it, I hit it solid, straight up to the pitcher. Now, he caught it, the game's over, and all that stuff. And so we went to it was bad. I was not popular. And we went back to the dugout, had our meeting where the coach tells you, hold your heads up. You know, I still don't understand that. Well, hold your head high. You just got kicked, beat, you know. So anyway, we got our little talk, went outside, milled around for a few minutes like you do at youth ball games. And people started moving off towards their cars. And I saw everybody leaving, and I said, well, Mom and Daddy were here, so they had an old brown station wagon. I looked down the road, and I saw it coming. It was on a dirt road behind the backstop, and they were going kind of fast. And I was kind of walking out there, you know, stop and get me. They just kept going. And all I saw my sister, Donna, and Judy, and my brother, Toby, in the back of that station wagon, sitting in that little flat part, making faces and pointing at me. They enjoyed it. So then I said, well, you know, I'm up here in Atlanta somewhere. I got to get back to Columbus somehow. And everybody just kept going by me. And finally, Mr. and Miss Trotter, Patty and Dan, showed up and reluctantly let me in their car. Did not speak a word to me the whole way home. And we got to 39th Street, and they let me out, and I said, "Thank you, Mr. Trotter, for the ride." And that was the end of that trip, and that wasn't nice. I got my notes crooked. I cannot believe it. Anyway, I just want to, in closing, thank you again for the recognition. It's like each of these gentlemen said, it's a real honor to come home and receive this. And I might have been I'm so grateful that the Ledger Inquirer suggested that I might have been the best high school player who ever came from here. I appreciate that. It's probably not so, but it was nice. But it didn't go to my head, because even though I was the best basketball player, I think, in my family, better than my daddy was, I wasn't even close to what he was as an athlete, and he taught me an awful lot too. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan, and congratulations again, and to the family as well. Our next inductee was named to the 1962 All-State High School football team by the Birmingham News. He played football from 1964 to 1968 at the University of Alabama for legendary coach Paul Bear Bryant. He was a two-year starter as a lineman, playing in the Orange, Sugar, and Cotton Bowl games. In 1966, he played on the only unbeaten and untied team in the nation. He was athletic director and coach at Pacelli High School for some 27 years. He established, along with Coach Joe Sparks, the annual Pacelli versus Brookstone football Pacelli milk jug game. Would you kindly direct your attention to the screen?
Nathan Rustin touched the lives of thousands of high school athletes during a coaching career that spanned over 3 decades. Rustin was born at Fort Benning. He attended high school at Central in Phoenix City, where he lettered in wrestling, track, and football. His prep exploits on the gridiron got the attention of legendary coach Paul Bear Bryant, and Rustin was offered a scholarship to play for the University of Alabama. Nathan's college football career is one for the scrapbooks. He played on 2 national championship teams in 1964 and 65. The Crimson Tide won 3 consecutive SEC championships in the mid-60s, and during that stretch, Rustin got to play in 3 of the premier bowl games in the country: the Orange Bowl, Sugar Bowl, and Cotton Bowl. Rustin got his master's degree from Georgia State and then spent 6 years paying his dues as an assistant coach before landing at Pacelli High School in Columbus in 1975. He was hired as head football coach and athletic director, a position he would hold for 27 years. Coach Rustin became an institution at Pacelli, both on and off the football field. He helped establish the long-running tradition of the Brucelli Jug, the trophy going to the winner of the annual Brookstone Pacelli football game. He was also selected as Bi-City Coach of the Year. As much as Coach Rustin loved football, he also enjoyed his job as wrestling coach at Pacelli. He was named Bi-City Coach of the Year in that sport, too. He also played a key role in creating the Columbus City Wrestling Tournament. Along with his coaching and teaching duties at Pacelli, Coach Rustin also served in the capacity of Dean of Students for a period of time. In 2001, a special section of the Pacelli yearbook was dedicated to his years of service at the school. Coach Rustin died unexpectedly in May of 2002 at the age of 57. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to posthumously induct Nathan Rustin.
Ladies and gentlemen, accepting for Nathan Rustin, his son Ty Rustin, and fellow coaching associates David Taylor.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ty Rustin. I'm Nathan Rustin's son, and I'm pleased to be here tonight together with my dad's best friend, Coach David Taylor, to give the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame induction speech on his behalf. What a great year 2010 is shaping up to be. First, Alabama wins the national championship game in football, and now my dad is being inducted into the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame. What an honor it is to be included in such a prestigious and exclusive group. I'd like to start by thanking the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame Selection Committee for thinking enough of my dad to nominate him and also to select him to be a part of this group. At this time, I'd also like to congratulate the other 2010 inductees, Mr. Greg Camp, Mr. Hardaway, Tim Hudson, and also Dan Franklin. I want to thank them for all their achievements that they've earned during their careers and also the contributions that they've made to the Chattahoochee Valley area as well. So thank you and good job. At this time, I would like to ask all of my dad's former teammates, players, coaches that he coached with and against, teachers that he taught school with, and any administrators that he worked for. If you could please stand, I'd like to recognize all of you that are here tonight, please. I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight to show your support for my dad. If it wasn't for people like you, I probably wouldn't be up here accepting this honor on his behalf tonight, so thank you very much. Yeah, my dad, he loved the Chattahoochee Valley area, and I really can't think of any other place that he would have liked to have lived and worked and raised a family. And I always enjoy running into people that know him and have a story to share about him. So I'll just run through a few quick stories, and hopefully they won't be too inappropriate for the banquet tonight. But I had a chance to talk to one of his close friends the other day, Bobby Bush, who he went to high school with at Central High School. And Bobby was telling me about a time when Central played Baker in football. And he said that Central dressed out 30 players, and at that time Baker dressed out 70 players. And it was a real close defensive struggle throughout the game. It was a really tight game, and according to Bobby, my dad had made a tackle on one of the Baker's players on their side of the field on Baker's sideline. And next thing you know, the player from Baker, he stands up and he pushes my dad, and next thing you know, a skirmish or a fight breaks out between them, and then it kind of carries over into the two teams that are playing, and the officials tried to get things under control and didn't have any luck, and they were trying everything they could to restore order. Well, finally the people in the press box, they decided to be creative, and they played the Star Spangled Banner like 2 or 3 times, hoping that that may do the trick, and that didn't seem to work, and then they turned out the stadium lights, hoping that may work, and that didn't seem to work either. And then finally, after all that, they were able to stop the fighting, and Central did end up winning that game 3-0. They won on a 30-yard field goal by David Ray, who I think later went on to play for Alabama as well. And Bobby was telling me after the game was over with, one of the assistant coaches from Central pulled him inside and said, "Nathan, what in the world were you doing picking a fight on their side of the field?" So I guess he thought if it would have been on Central side, maybe they would have had a better chance. So, well, that's one quick story. Another one I wanted to share, and this is one that my brother-in-law, Keith Jackson, shared with me last night. He was telling me that when Alabama played in the Cotton Bowl, during the course of the game, my dad played offensive tackle. He was a right tackle for Alabama. And they were in the huddle, and one of his teammates had also played on the offensive line. He comes into the huddle, and his forehead's bleeding real bad. It's all red. His helmet's on crooked and everything. And so they were like, "Gosh, you know what in the world is going on? What's happening out there?" And and his teammate said, well, hey, I'm up against this guy. He's killing me out here. There's nothing I can do. He's getting the better of me. So my dad said, well, don't worry about it. Which number is he? Well, he's number 64. Well, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. So they said they ran a play. He come back into the huddle again, and this time they said my dad comes back, and his head's all bleeding, and his forehead's red, and his helmet's turned to the side. And they said, well, gosh, what's going on, Nathan, out there? And he said, boys, it looks like I'm going to need some help with this one. And then one other story real fast with Alabama. When Alabama went to the Cotton Bowl, back in those days, the players, they wore a coat and tie. They, wanted to look real sharp while they were traveling and representing the school. And somehow my dad's luggage gets lost along the way from the airport in Dallas to, I guess, the facilities that they were staying at. And Coach Bryant somehow got wind of this, and he told one of his assistants to go tell my dad to come see him. And my dad was always afraid of Coach Bryant, so he decided not to go see him. So later on, when Coach Bryant finally saw my dad, he had 3 sport jackets with him, and 3 of his own personal sport jackets. And in the inside, it had Paul Bear Bryant, his name engraved on it. And he threw them to my dad, and he said, hey, next time I tell you to do something, then by God, you better do it, So, and then real fast, his days at Baker, that was one of his first coaching jobs. And I know he had fond memories of Baker and the teachers that he worked with, the coaches that he coached with. I remember him saying that, admiring the kids that came through Baker. He talked about how tough they were mentally and physically, and back then that was a very difficult time with things that were going on, but sports was able to bring everybody together, and everybody seemed to get on the same page. Lastly, his days at Pacelli, and that's how I remember my dad the most. There's so many stories that I have about it, but I know we're limited with time. Some things that with him that I remember, he always used to have a one-liner that just left you laughing. I remember he used to always say whenever times got tough, or whenever we as players would make excuses or complain that things weren't going our way, he would always clear his throat and say, you got to suck it up, and I heard you've got to suck it up I don't know how many times in my life. And to this day, when I'm faced with adversity in anything I do, whether it be work or something that's personal going on with my life, I think back on those words to somehow to get through it and to not quit. So that's one thing that I do remember. And then Mr. Greg Camp alluded to it earlier. I think his biggest contribution to the Chattahoochee Valley area was his time spent as a coach and a teacher. I feel that he influenced a lot of people that he worked with, a lot of students. In fact, Frank Saunders, one of his former students and players, is here in attendance tonight, and he pulled me aside and told me how important my dad was to him when he was coming through Pacelli, and how much influence that he's had on Frank's life. And Frank is a coach and a teacher these days also. So those are the things that I enjoy, and I think that's where he had his most influence and the contribution. It's good to see all of these people go on and be successful in their own right, the people that he's worked with. So that's it for me. I'd like to turn it over for Coach Taylor, but thank you, everybody.
Well, let me tell you, I can't do like all these other speakers and just speak. I had to write mine down so I could keep my thoughts together. But I will say this, Nathan being an Alabama boy, it's kind of tough. And don't take this personal there, Tim, Dan, surrounded by Auburn people. This is tough. But wow, what an honor it is to be here tonight to speak on an occasion like this, to induct my best friend, Nathan Rustin, into the Hall of Fame. may I say first to the committee who votes and who selects the candidates that you scored a touchdown and an extra point in choosing Nathan. To honor the man that we are remembering here tonight, you must be first introduced to the woman who gave us the gift of Nathan, his beloved mother, Miss Gaynell Tootsie Rustin. This remarkable woman who just turned 90, yes, 90, is responsible for the man that Nathan Rustin became. One, if you knew him, you loved him. I'd also like to introduce his lovely wife of 36 years who had to try to keep Nathan in check, if that was possible, Helen Rustin. As Coach Henry Gresham once said to me, when Nathan married Miss Helen, that's as we call her, Miss Helen, he outkicked his coverage. Also here in the audience are his brothers, John and Robert, and they were his best friends, I'm going to tell you that. Some thought that Nathan was the toughest Rustin because of his days at Alabama, but there was one brother whom even Nathan said was the toughest of them all, and that was the late Wayne Eugene Rustin. Wayne became paralyzed from a diving accident when he was only 15 years old, but he never let his accident hold him back. He lived his life to the fullest due to the assistance and admiration that his family gave him. Miss Tootsie and her sons Nathan, John, Robert, and their families helped to care for Wayne's physical and emotional needs for 40 years. Also in the audience are Nathan and Helen's children, Kim and Ty, and their families. Kim and Ty are devoted to their mother, Helen, and to their families due to the example of their father, Nathan. Two of Nathan's greatest pleasures in life were his children, and years later, their gift of his 4 grandchildren. I personally had the pleasure of working under Nathan Rustin when I was hired as an assistant coach at Pacelli High School, which is my alma mater. After I moved to other coaching jobs, we remained close friends. During those years, I heard many stories of Nathan during his high school and college years. Nathan was somewhat of a legend around here. He was known by many as the toughest man on both sides of the river. Never lost a fight. Some of you old heads that are sitting out there can remember the rivalries among Columbus, Jordan, Central High School, the Goo-Goo, the varsity. I don't think I need to go any farther than that, but there were a lot of rivalries that took place back then. And then there was one story about Nathan being so strong that he knocked a horse out with his fist. Nathan swore to me that that legend was not true. He said the ground was wet and the horse slipped. Sometimes we fans of athletics get caught up in statistics, how many games a coach has won, where he coached, who he coached, and other such accomplishments. But to honor Nathan Rustin, we must ask, how many young people did he help through his years as a teacher and a coach? In what ways did he touch their lives and make lasting impressions? How many confused teens were steered in the right direction under his influence? Nathan had plenty to brag about. Played at Central, earned a scholarship to Alabama, coached by the legendary Bear Bryant, played alongside such football greats as Joe Namath, Kenny Stabler, Ray Perkins. While at Alabama, he played in 3 different bowl games, the Cotton Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, and the Orange Bowl. He was part of the 1965 National Championship team. And he also was part of the 1966 undefeated team, which should have been national champions. After graduating from Alabama, he coached football at Bay High School in Panama City, coached at Baker, LaGrange, and he became the head football coach at Pacelli High, where he coached until his death in 2002. He was highly respected by fellow coaches, players, parents, and staffs of those schools that he served. Earlier I said that Nathan had plenty to brag about, but those of us who loved him know that he didn't brag on himself. And that's one of the reasons that he was so well respected. He was a genuine person. What you saw is what you got. Nathan was generous to a fault, kind, selfless, humorous, full of life, and most of all, family-oriented. To describe him, I would say that he was the opposite of that tough, strong football player. Nathan had a big heart. He was a family man who truly loved his whole family. Nathan called Kmart his second home. He was always there, and I mean this, I ran into him I don't know how many times, but he was always there picking out toys to give to the nieces, the nephews, his grandchildren. He had a habit of handing out dollar bills to the kids on special occasions, their birthdays. After he died, laminated drawings, pictures, and paintings were found in his office. Some of the favorite memories of Nathan Rustin were Saturdays watching Alabama play whoever it was. We'd always go to Miss Tootsie's house. And we had chili, and she made it every time. Sometimes we had hot dogs from the 14th Street Grill, chips, a whole lot of exaggerated stories, of course. Keith was probably the worst one about telling stories. Yes, we enjoyed. I forgot, I better say this. And our favorite beverage was on the menu, I'm going to tell you. Yes, we enjoyed a pint or two while cheering on Alabama. But the ritual of watching those games at Miss Tootsie's was a norm because Good John, Robert, and Nathan could bring the excitement and joy into their brother Wayne's world. The Rustins have no idea how much their example influenced all of us who were part of those Saturday rituals. Nathan Rustin was a man of virtue. He was honest to a fault. He would not and could not tell a lie. And I say that, I've never known him. I would tell a little lie, white lie to my wife. I'm going to tell you so she wouldn't get on me. But we'd go out on occasion. He wouldn't tell Helen any lie. He'd tell her where. I was afraid of my wife. I would tell. But Nathan couldn't. He was just honest to a fault. He wouldn't tell a lie. His word was his bond, and a handshake meant more than a contract signed at a lawyer's office. Nathan had a love for life. He loved people, being around them, telling stories, listening to stories, laughing, and just enjoying the companies that others made him happy. The amazing thing about Nathan, and I think this says a lot about him, was that it didn't matter if you were the president of the Phoenix Girard Bank or you were the custodian at his high school. He treated all he met with respect and courtesy that all men want and deserve. Many have said that when you walked away from Nathan Rustin, you felt like $1 million. He always made you feel as if you were the most important person. You generally felt like Nathan cared and listened to you, and he did. Everyone that he met mattered to him. Nathan was a caring man. He regularly, using his vernacular, toted kids who did not have transportation to and from school, all the way from Fort Mitchell. He lent money to strangers who needed help, never asking them what they needed it for or when he would be repaid. He instead would say, "Hope it'll help." Nathan had a contagious personality, and I see Father Schreck in this, and this is true, and he can probably vouch for this. It awed all the little children at St. Anne's. He'd stop, take the time, talk to the little kids, he'd pick at them, but he'd get them in trouble with the teachers because they'd get out of line and so forth. But he'd finally look at the teacher and say, "It was my fault, I'm sorry." And it would be wrong of me if I didn't mention Nathan's heaven, his place to go and to enjoy God's wonder. was the lake. He would load his old red Mazda dam with the essentials needed for the weekend: ice, water, canned foods, and of course his favorite beverage. Now this lake was not Lake Harding. This lake was between Buena Vista and Richland, and his lake house was an old trailer. And I mean an old trailer. He shared his home with the rats when it was cold. It had no running water, and there was an outhouse for those times of need, and a grill that he built out of stone. He grew up out there as a young man, and I feel this is where he was in his element. He was influenced so much by his father, Nathan Sr., who, if you got to know him, he'd always say, "I'm a Patton-type soldier." And you do what you have to survive. And I think that's where Nathan, Good John, and Robert got their breeding, a lot of that from their daddy. Nathan didn't have to have money, a fancy house, or a fancy car to prove to people how successful he was. He just had to be himself. I know I didn't talk much about his athletic accomplishments, his 27 years at Pacelli as a coach, his dedication to the student athletes whose lives he touched, the number of kids who were named after him, mine included, or his days at Alabama. I wanted you to know the man as I knew him, or the other side of this great man. There are more important things in life than scoring touchdowns, winning 300 games. This man touched lives, taught values and life lessons to help our children become good and successful citizens, and to see that all people are important in this world. I'll close with this last thought. Do you know what the name Nathan means? My wife looked it up once. I don't know where she looked it up, but she can find whatever she needs. But she looked it up, and the word Nathan means a gift from God. And that was what Nathan was to all of us who were blessed to know him. And my last thought, and it's a good one. It's a good one. You know, Nathan, he had a great personality. He was humorous and all. When everything was going great, he was happy, laughing, going around. He'd look at you and he'd say, "Hey, Dan, you know what?" And you'd say, "What?" "We own the damn world." Thank you.
Congratulations to all the members of the Rustin family. Ladies and gentlemen, let me leave you with one or two parting thoughts tonight to take home with you. There's at least one graphic measure in the Chattahoochee Valley by which we distinguish our great men and women, and we believe it's the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame. Within it are 71 individuals. Tonight, we added 5 more. We received them in large part because they were visionaries of perfection. They acted nobly, they acted with purpose of mind and purpose of body. Whether taken individually or collectively, they've had a significant impact on our quality of life in the Chattahoochee Valley. I would ask of you before we adjourn that you please stand and give one final round of applause to the class of 2010. Good night, everyone.